Hello everyone, Melanie here with Vintage Hill Studio. Today I'm going to be making a sweet little stork and baby card. And this is what it looks like. So as usual, I will go through all of the supplies that I'll be using today, and these will also be on my card blog. So be sure and visit me at vintagehillstudio.com. First I'm going to start with this cute little stork holding the baby. And I'll be using archival ink and watering can gray. I like to use my Misty for this just so I get a good impression with my ink and my stamp. Again, this is from Fiskars, and I have used this stamp many times. It makes a simple little image which I will later color in with markers. And I like to do little samples of the colors that I'm interested in using on a little scrap piece of paper, just to see how they're going to blend and what it will look like. Of course, you can see that this image has some very tiny little details. So I like using the markers that have a brush end and then a finer nib on the other side, and you'll see why. So let's get started with our coloring. I'm going to keep this very simple for the stork image. Just a few little grays as if there's a shadow. And I'm going to leave it at that because storks are naturally white. Then I'll be just adding a little bit of color on his beak with a yellow and then an orangish yellow. And one of the things that I like to do, and I've seen done on other videos, is to take the darker color and apply it to your lighter marker, which gives you a natural shading. And again, the beak is such a fine little detail that I don't want to overdo it with this darker orangish shade. I just want to add a little shading to the bottom of the beak, and that's why I apply one marker to the other. I'm going to give it a little more detail with the finer nib of this marker, and we'll be done with that. Now I'm moving on to the baby in the blanket, and I want to give that a little bit of a rounded shape, so I'm going to attempt to leave the middle of the blanket a little lighter. Just working on the face right now, and then I'll move on to the blanket. Okay, so I thought this was really interesting about the origins of the baby and the stork. And I looked this up, and the idea of a baby bringing stork actually was established in Northern Europe, particularly Germany and Norway. And it can be traced to at least medieval times, more than 600 years ago, where it was common for couples to wed during the annual summer solstice, and that's because summer was associated with fertility. So I thought that was really interesting. And at the same time, the storks would start their annual migration flying all the way from Europe to Africa, and then return the following spring. And guess what? That took exactly 9 months. So isn't that interesting? They would return to their chicks in the spring about the same time that a lot of babies were born. And of course, I read also that there was Hans Christian Andersen actually wrote a story called The Storks. So that helped us get along as far as folklore. So anyway, I thought I'd share that, and that it was really interesting. Here I'm going to go back and add a few little white dots just because this image is so plain, and I think the little white dots add just a little bit of character. It doesn't really need much. The image is so sweet and cute. Like I said, I have used this in many cards. And there is our finished image. Now I am working with a 4" by 5.5" card, and then I'll be making a mat out of this plaid, which is 3 3/4 by 5 1/4. And that'll go right there. And then I'll take a little satin ribbon, and I'm going to add some detail there along the bottom of my card. Taking a tape runner just to give a little adhesion to the center. I like to use my grid mat for this because it helps me line up my ribbon straight across my mat. Then I'll quickly flip it around, add some more tape runner, and bring those ends around to the back of my mat and secure those. Okay, and then I will be ready to add this mat to the front of my card. So this, you can see this card comes together fairly quickly, and it is so cute. Sometimes the simplest images are the best. You will see the focus will be on the stork and the baby, and that's exactly what I was going for. So here I've tied a little satin bow out of that same ribbon, and I'm using some of my adhesive to get that put down on the front of my card. And then I'll quickly clip off the tails of that ribbon, just so they hit right along the bottom edge of my card. I don't want this to be bulky when it gets put into an envelope, so I make sure that I trim that as close to the bottom as possible. Alright, so the next step is simply bringing over those Sizzix dies that I showed you earlier. One for the stork and the baby, and one for a background mat. So I cut those out off screen with my Big Shot. And now I'm deciding whether I like the darker or the lighter side of that cardstock. They're both that minty green, and I decided to go with the lighter green, just because I thought that made the stork and baby stand out a little more from that plaid background. So I got those two ovals put together with liquid adhesive, and then I have foam tape on the back, and I'll get that put on the front of my card here. Alright, so moving right along. Isn't that super cute? Just sweet and simple. Now I will be working on the inside of my card with the cute little sentiment that I use quite a bit. And I found the Stamp-A-Majig at a garage sale, and what a great find. I don't know if they still make these or not, but it's wonderful. So it comes with this little clear acetate sheet. Again, I'll be using that watering can gray like I used on the stork. And you simply line up a block wooden stamp with the Stamp-A-Majig. You see I did that in the corner, and then I can see where I want to align that on the inside of my card. Now, of course, I can't use a mini MISTI with anything except for cling stamp, so the Stamp-A-Majig works great with the wooden block stamps. So you see I aligned where I wanted that stamped, put my Stamp-A-Majig back in that position, add my stamp, and there you go. Perfectly stamped sentiment. And then this is how easily this just wipes off with a baby wipe. And I'll be ready for the next use. Okay, then I just brought a little bit of that scrap plaid paper, and I will apply that to the inside of my card. Got that glued down. I'll flip it over and clip off the excess, and the inside of my card will be done a lickety-split. There you go. Okay, so that finishes my card for today. Next, I'm going to show you my Easy-Peasy lined envelope method. It uses no special measurements or dies, nothing tricky. So you just take your piece of patterned paper that coordinates with your card. I take about an 1/8 inch off of the sides and the top, and then I fold it over where the flap is. I take a pencil and mark one side of the flap, and then I'm simply going to fold that in half without creasing it vertically. And I know about how much I need to take off to match that upper gum line. I don't want to cover up the gum line of my envelope because I need that to secure it when my envelope is ready for the mail. So then I just make sure that's centered, add a little adhesive, and in less than 1 minute you have an Easy-Peasy lined envelope. I have other tutorials on YouTube using different shapes of envelopes and how to line those. They're all very similar. This goes together so quickly. I hope you'll give it a try and go take a look at some of those other videos I have out there for easy-peasy lined envelopes. So to finish it off, I will take some of these coordinating stamps from that same set, and I stamped the flap of my envelope as well as in one of the corners on the front. And that completely ties my card back to my lined envelopes. I enjoy doing that. If you're going to spend that much time on a card, you might as well make sure the envelope does it justice. Here is my finished card and easy-peasy lined envelope. And I am so happy you joined me today. I love making these sweet little baby cards, and I hope that you enjoyed this video as well. If you like this, please feel free to subscribe to either my card blog, I'll have a link at the end, or my YouTube channel and leave me any comments. I'd love to see you again. Happy crafting, everyone!